session where we discuss some of the happenings in the country. We tend to look at any sector that we feel we should bring to the spotlight, discuss it, rub minds together, and then you can as well drop your comment and your views regarding any of these matters we will be discussing this afternoon on our Facebook. I am Sele Elisha Dasham. I'm doing this program alongside Rachel. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon, Stella.
All right, we have quite a number we will love to discuss, and we hope to do justice to these topics before the end of the show, where we will be looking at the repairs of about 128 towers, where we're seeing that the DCN, in collaboration with the federal government, are talking about the fact that about 8.8 billion naira have been spent to actually fix, talking about vandals, and we will record that we've been having a number of Greek collapse in the country just this year alone, and then we're seeing that, and despite this money that's been spent, the power sector is yet to fully regain ground, as we're still having some part of the country still going through kind of an epileptic power supply. So we could see that the power sector are still looking into what they can do, and then as well we'd love to look into what is happening in the red chambers regarding the tax reform bills. So Richard, let's start with the issue of power. I mean, I may recall that we recall when we were having blackout, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
north. I think we went almost 2 weeks
Yeah.
without power, and then I really cannot say how I felt about especially small businesses. I clearly remember talking about them,
Mm.
the fact that they are the ones to bear the loss more because some of them are just trying to try.
Yes.
And then let's not even talk about manufacturers. They have also stated their own how unhappy they are regarding that. Now we're saying that the TCN is talking about the fact that about 8.8 billion naira has already been spent just on the 128 towers. I know there are certain towers that presently are not yet functioning well. So
Mm.
certain parts of the country have to rely on others, and then so right now it looks more like there's a rationing of the light because for some part of the country or some areas or communities you can actually say okay, you can experience the first 3 to 4 hours of light and then the light is off.
Mm.
And then I think for like my area where I stay precisely, we only see the light maybe in the afternoon. You get the light for about 2 or 3 hours, and then later maybe by 10 or 11 you see the light, and then by 5:30 the light is off again. And so you could really tell that till date we are still
Yeah.
yet to really say that the power sector is stable as it is presently. And we're seeing that this was being presented where we're saying that okay, what is the way forward if we are going to be looking at the fact that despite all of this, because I think the power minister is saying that even the vandals have not yet been brought to book properly because some of them pay bill and then they go scot-free. And then I just hope that maybe they should be denied bill, because looking at what this country is suffering
Yes.
regarding this epileptic power supply, you could really tell that maybe a more painful, is that the word for me to use, punishment should be given, the
Mm-hmm.
right punishment, so that anyone that is trying to actually walk in that same path will know that if I tried it, this is what is going to happen eventually. Of course, we can go back to various power plants that we hope they are working, the likes of Mambila and the rest, until date are not functioning well. But then let's look at this money that is spent presently on making sure that they fix all of this, and yet we're yet to see a stable power supply in the country.
Stella, 8.8 billion naira is a lot of money, and if you want to do the division, you will realize that that's a lot of hundreds of millions of naira going to one tower, because we are looking at over 128 transmission towers.
Mm.
And then you ask a big question, that what are we going to do moving forward to stop this vandalism of the transmission power? And this response might sound cruel or like an accusation, but all fingers or every clue points to that direction. And the simple answer is, let TCN stop vandalizing the transmission towers. So, like, if you look at a transmission tower, it's not a pole. You know, the poles in our area where meters are hanging and all of that. Or it's not a small transformer in an area where we would say, okay, people came, stole a few things out of that, or somebody climbed a NEPA pole and took out a meter. If you see these transmission
Towers.
towers, Sele,
Mm.
it has to be someone who knows how to get up there and nicely vandalize it. It's not a petty theft. We can talk the same for oil theft. In this country, we've talked about it, that it is a corporate scheme
Mm.
of thieves, a brood and den of thieves, where vessels will come and live with crude oil, and for some reason they are disappearing, there's no radar.
Undetected, and
You
just can't tell.
already know that in as much as we can't put a face to it, we know that of course these people are working hand in hand with whoever is expected to sell the crude oil, whoever is expected to protect the crude oil and all of that. The same goes for our power outage, these vandalisms and all of that that have been going on. Because these are the things that stood out for me. The fact that you catch these vandals, however, they are giving bail on theft charges. Now, how are you able to get these people and then for some reason they get a bill and then without a hearing? We just saw recently where Yahya Bello was arraigned for 110 billion, and then the court is saying, you know what, there has to be a hearing for his bail before it's being granted. There has to be procedures. So how are they, for some reason, you're catching someone who stole a car and he's not giving you back what
Your
he
car?
stole, because obviously we're spending those billions because those things that were taken out were not found, and they are going on bail, and then you're saying it's a problem. And it honestly, as legit as it might sound as a story, it doesn't make sense, Sarah. It looks like the same people who are responsible for electricity, for power supply, for maintaining this power tower and making sure grid collapse don't happen, are the same people responsible for everything that is missing whatsoever. There's no credibility in the story of you getting someone who has stolen and then giving the person bail. You're not getting back what the person has gotten from you for you to do the repairs, but no, you're rather more comfortable with spending 8.8 billion of the Nigerian people money to fix things that shouldn't have even been stolen in the first place. Because it's a major operation to vandalize a transmission tower. It is. It is not going to be a five-man thing or anything. I know they gave an example of the recent one that happened at security. Yes, we have those territories that have
Security.
insecurity issues, but it's not comprised of all of the 128 transmission towers here that we're talking about. And I know this might all be speculations, and that's because there's a lot of question marks. There are a lot of questions that are coming out of this report, out of who is really stealing and from the transmission tower, and even the question of this much money spent on the repairs and being able to replace certain things and all of that. Truly, corruption is eating deeply into the country, and it feels like there's no way out, because there's no sector that you can't just you the pieces are not adding up, because something is missing out there, and then it doesn't make sense at all. So I just hope that we don't want to hear stories you caught a thief and the thief escaped without you getting back what the thief have stolen, and making it look like these people are faceless and you have no idea of the operation or what is going on, but rather you want to give an explanation of 8.8 billion that shouldn't even be spent in the first place, in the name of that things have been vandalized from our transmission towers and all of that. It is really a sad one, but I hope that there is more investigation into the part where the police are letting go these criminals.
Because while you were talking, I clearly remember when the president said that to fix some of these towers, when we were having the Greek collapse, they needed to deploy a certain security agency to protect the TCN power workers that will be on these towers, and then some of them will have to be on these towers for days because it's going to take so much of effort and time to be able to fix it. And you clearly stated the fact that why should we have such an amount of money? And my concern is the fact that, okay, we are spending this money, yet yet the power is not stable.
It's not.
Yet the power is unstable, and you've clearly stated it's only someone who knows the function and how this thing works that will be able to have so much of confidence to climb into a tower with a very serious high voltage extension. What are
Exactly.
you saying? Aren't you scared of your life? What will give you, even though they are saying, I mean, vandals and bandits, but I mean, of course, we know that when there are insecurity, certain parts have to go into darkness. But it will
Sure.
take more than just, the bandits to do that
yeah,
work. It only
criminals.
takes somebody. You would clearly mention, I mean, it's not even a transformer in your area. I mean, even the transformer is only the people who knows the function of
Yeah,
it,
of
because I
certain
mean, a
things,
petty
yeah.
thief can't go steal something that he or she doesn't know. And if you steal it, you must sell it to somebody else. I've
Who are
heard
the
of family
buyers?
friends that
Yeah.
said, a time like this, somebody came, or one of the workers from the power sector came and said their meter wasn't working. They needed to buy a new one. And then we know that we've been going back and forth regarding replacement of obsolete meters, and the fact that you are not supposed to pay, they're just supposed to
Yes.
replace it, because if you check your breakdown, you pay for all of this in case of anything maintenance. They should put it, but then yet I think it's still the same old meter that was sold back to them, because you cannot collect my meter without the card, because it's a
Yeah.
prepaid meter. And all of this. So there are things that, just like you said, corruption is eating deep, and something doesn't just make sense in this whole report. Just like you said, it sounds very intelligent. And I remember there were times that, when the president was reshuffling his cabinet, people were hoping that maybe the prime minister would be part of those people
Yeah.
that would actually go, because of what was happening, because it was at that point we were experiencing the Greek collapse. But I mean, we'll keep our fingers
We
crossed
will.
and being hopeful that beyond this money here that the federal government are telling us they have spent, and yet power, and this is just in 11 months. So I don't know what's going to happen for December,
Yeah.
how much will be spent, and then we'll not have a sum total of what was spent in the whole year regarding all of this. But we hope to see something better, and then people taking up responsibility. And then if you are caught, I'm just hoping, I keep saying, the rule of law needs to take its place regardless of who you
Yeah.
are. I mean, nobody's more Nigerian than the other. Regardless how big you are, you should face the full wrath of the law. Now, we know we've been having this conversation. People have been talking about the issue of the tax reforms. And this whole conversation started in October. Sometimes around 30th October was when this bill came up. And we know the back and forth governors had the fact that, I mean, the North is not generating so much, and why is it? And then we saw where the presidency came out to say that, I mean, this is not to attack the North, this is just in a way to be able to generate more revenue into the country. And then we know the back and forth regarding all of this, even though it was at a pause, because that was when the president had to reshuffle his cabinet. We had some minister nominees, the likes of Bianca Netawe and many others. It was during that time, and so we're saying it has been reintroduced again. I mean,
Yes.
more like let's go back again and see what's going to happen. And then we're saying that hopefully, even though yesterday the whole house was rowdy because of one or two things, one of the tax reform officers from the president was present, and then some of the senators felt, I mean, we're not informed that we're going to be having the executive with us, so why are they here and all of that. But we're hoping that today we'll get to hear the
Yes.
final answer,
True.
whether or not, because we're also seeing talking about the tax chief, who happens to be Oyedele, talking about the fact that Nigerians spend about 52% of their income on food alone. And then, of course, I remember this morning, one of the papers, I said maybe we'll have to laminate it, because they said for those who
Yes.
are earning below 1 million naira annually will not pay this tax. So that is to say, for those who are still earning 30,000 naira, even though we know even the 70,000 naira that has been approved, it's not really making any significant difference in the life of Nigerians. But you asked a question in the morning, Richard, and I think this is the time where we should elaborate on the fact that how is the government hoping to get those elites that they say they want to get this revenue from?
From,
We're looking
yeah.
at the organization, individuals that are earning very, very high. And I know, of course, we've been having this issue of pay as you earn, but then how
Yeah.
effective have it been? I mean, because looking at this, if it is going to get, if the house are going to pass for this whole thing, they have to be sure that they have done their assignment, they have checked every check that needs to be checked, they have checked it to be sure that some people will not suffer as a result of this. I think this has been the concern of the northern governors precisely regarding these tax reforms.
And concerning the northern governors, will not stop saying that what the North have no business whatsoever complaining. You have to, for years you haven't harnessed the strength of
the-
your own region concerning how do we generate revenue and the kind of investment that we are supposed to bring or channel towards our own people to capitalize on the human and power that we on the manpower, human power or human capital that we have, either of which, but you didn't do any of that, and then we are where we are now. Now, concerning this tax reform, the question is: have President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ever said anything that he has not yet done? Whether there's rowdy session in the House of Representatives, Senate, whether there's a back and forth, whether you don't agree, whether you are not happy, it has come to stay. Because I'm here to see one thing that this administration, as long as it is the idea of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that have not stayed. Everything he brings or say concerning reforms economically have stood. Like there's no shaking. There's always trying to calm us down, because at the beginning there was a lot of backlash, and then it's like the presidency, okay, you know what, let's slow this down a little bit, and perhaps how we're bringing it out to the people is not acceptable. Let's change our strategy of introducing it, and they have changed the strategy now, and they're beginning to make you know, okay, you know what, if you're not earning more than if you're earning below ₦1 million yearly, annually, you're exempted from. There's a lot of these tax reforms, but that of payment, that is income tax, is only applicable to those. However, there's a lot of back and forth around these tax reforms. For example, it started with that this tax is only going to go for the elites. That is, you have to be earning over 100 million naira annually for you to be part of this tax reform. Now we are seeing from 100 million is now down to 1 million. So it is as much as the federal government is trying to say it's not going to be for the poor and vulnerable. You will find that is going to affect even the poor and vulnerable, because 100,000 naira, for example, means you're going to be earning 1.2 million annually. And for anybody earning 100,000 naira in Nigeria is a poor person. That's the truth. You're a poor person, and you are a vulnerable, and you are going to be affected. In fact, even if you earn 90,000, at the end of the year, after 12 months, your salary is a little bit above 1 million. So you are going to be part of
Those
who are going to be. So the question is, how are you not going to affect the vulnerable? It's simple. There's a way a tax system works, and except the federal government of Nigeria is going to put it that way, I don't think it's going to. Is the percentage of how much tax is taken from your income. Okay, fine. If you're earning less than 1 million, you will not. But still, yet someone with 100,000 as a monthly salary or something like that, what percentage will you be taking out of their income? And for those who are earning over 100 million, those who are earning 200 million, there should be a wide gap or a margin to how much they pay compared to those other people. And but still, it's not going to be welcome, because how many people are working and are even earning enough to say, you know what, a tax system is going to work. What people need to understand, that if a tax reform is going to work, it has to be with everybody. It doesn't matter if it is 50 kobo. We have over 200 million people. If you start putting a group and a class to who will get taxed and not, you are not going to end up making anything when it comes to tax and all of that, as long as when it comes to income generation, because tax is all about the number of people you're able to, and then how much it's at the end when you put them all together and all of that. So we might have ready sessions and all of that, but one thing is for sure, however we go about it, we know that this tax reform have come to stay. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ever since in office, started from starting trading tax either for import or for export. He would take away some, reduce some from some businesses, introduce
Increase
one.
some for others.
Exactly. But now I think it's now becoming a problem because it is now coming to humans. It's now coming to us. It's coming to individuals. It's no longer on businesses. It's no longer on products. It's no longer on entities and all of that. It is now coming to what will affect us directly. And then the question is, if you want to also target the elite, how are you going to do about that? When we talked about a little bit, we have people hiding their incomes and all of that, and nobody declaring assets and all of that. How are we going to go about it? It is so much work. But most importantly, Celia, above all that matters to me, and I believe to every Nigerian, is to see that at the end of the day, the poor and vulnerable in court don't get affected by these tax reforms.
Because if you're going to look at it, Rachel, we can actually link it directly. Just 2 days back, we were talking about what the NBS said regarding the number of unemployment we're having, going down to about 4.3%. And we saw where the Nigerian Labour Congress are saying, I mean, no. You
This
guys just
statistics,
fabricated
yeah.
this whole thing. Because looking at what is happening, it doesn't tally with what you were saying. So how did you come about the statistics, these numbers? Because numbers never lie. When you say something, I mean, it should be, evidence should be out there. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about 52% of households using their income for foodstuff. So it's leaving us with just how many percentage left? And you clearly stated. So that is to say this tax reform is supposed to be applicable to, maybe they have to go back and re-amend it to those maybe earning 5 million or 10 million annually, maybe to some extent to begin to make a little bit sense.
Yeah.
Of course, I know I can relate with the North because they have failed to do their assignment. So of course they are crying because we're going to look at the North as a whole. How many states are we going to leave out? Maybe the likes of Kano can say, okay, because it's a business area, so much of activity is going on. But even in the Kano, how many people? So we have to really, really be balanced about this whole thing. But just like you said, I'm yet to see a reform or a bill that the president submitted, and then the Senate did not just give it a pass without sitting and actually weighing the cons and the pros at the end of the day and seeing how the people eventually will be affected, whether positively or negatively. But we our fingers are crossed. We are hoping that before the end of today, we should be able to know, because of course it has passed the first reading already, so we're waiting for the second, third. So maybe we'll now have a stamp and then it has now come to stay.
Yeah.
But we hope that in as much as they're doing that, you should also be looking at how to make sure that you make the environment conducive enough for people, because we're saying that if you're saying people are no longer poor, people are beginning to look on how they can generate funds for themselves, eventually jobs for themselves. We saw how ICT is, the revenue that the government is realizing from there and all of that. People are taking advantage of all of this. So our fingers are crossed and we hope that eventually more things will turn out to be more, better for everybody
yes,
eventually. Well, so thank you so much, Rachel.
You're
doing this with
welcome,
me.
Celia.
As well, thank you to our viewers and every other person who made this program a success. We look forward again to doing this together tomorrow, so please have a lovely day ahead.